Hey team, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and today I'm joined by my friend, Ed Howie, who is a highly sought after retention and branding expert. This is not your typical intentional ag leader interview, but it is very, very intentionally designed and planned to give you guys something out there in the industry that you really need this year. I mean, you really need what Ed and I are going to talk about today. So, Ed, welcome to the show.
Mark, how are you, man?
Man, super excited to get in here. We could just probably talk all afternoon. We're going to make sure we hit record and actually get something going here.
Let's set a timer.
That's how it goes. But you get the same opening question that everybody does, which is, what does it mean for you to be intentional?
Oh my gosh. So to be intentional is obviously to be deliberate. However, I would expand upon that, and that is that I strive to do all I can with what I have today. And so that intentionality is recognizing what I have today and what the opportunities are today, and then what is the next right thing to do to yield the greatest impact for myself and others today.
Beautiful, man. I love it. I love it. I love the word deliberate. That's one of our words that we personally use to describe it, because it's like, I got to do it on purpose. But I love this addition.
Yep.
Do all I can with what I have today. That's cool.
Today's the most important part of that. I spent too many years of my life worrying about what I didn't have or what I used to have. And the reality is today's today. And so what is mission critical? And not just for production and ROI, but for impact and joy.
Beautiful. I love it, man. So good. So you guys, I want to just share a little bit more about Ed, because he brings some uniqueness to us today, which I'll mention the retention and branding expert. We'll get into more about what that means, but Ed has spent some time over his career working with brands that you'll recognize. A lot of you go there. We're talking about Chick-fil-A. We're talking about United Airlines. We're talking about 7-Eleven. We're talking about Kroger. And he's done a lot to help teams create, develop, and launch brands. He's been responsible for more than $350 million in incremental revenue. And that's the part that has me interested, not the 350. That's cool. I'm interested in the incremental part, because anybody can generate revenue. What I want to know about is, how do we generate incremental revenue? We don't have to get it all up front, but we want to have it over time. I want to make sure we got lifetime value. So that's the direction that we're going today. Ed, give us a little, what else would you add to your background? What else can you tell us about some of your background at Chick-fil-A, 7-Eleven, some of these other organizations?
Yeah, I've worked with incredible companies. Given your audience, there are probably many that are familiar with H-E-B Grocery in San Antonio. And so I had several years of leadership there. And I think for interesting context, I love the big brands. Okay, I love a lot about the big brands. There's some stuff I don't love about big brands. Okay, but I love the fact that I was raised with two of the most compelling cultures, the most compelling organizations of performance, as well as most compelling sense of urgency and get it done now mindset. However, I was 14 years into my career. My wife asked me the question, much longer conversation, but basically, was I happy? And I was like, you? And she was like, no, we're talking about H-E-B. I was like, okay, just clarify. She's like, I better know the answer to that first question. And she asked, was I happy at H-E-B? And I wasn't. And Mark, it wasn't about one particular thing. But what I realized is that I was spending all this time helping a $1 billion company make more $1 billion, which there's nothing impure about that. At the same time, interesting enough, with agribusiness and food and all that, is that I had a team of buyers and a very capable team of merchants. And oftentimes I'd be in the meeting where the vendors bring in our product. And I would be as compelled about what they were going to do for us and we did for them on the enterprise standpoint. But then also I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, pardon my French, but they have no idea how bad their product sucks. and they have like bet the farm literally on it. Or otherwise, they have no idea how great their product is. Or their product is phenomenal. It sure would be nice if the packaging told you that. Or, oh my gosh, they have the right idea, but they've done the wrong flavor profile. So their whole idea is perfect, but the execution on the nuance of it is off the mark and is not going to hit it. And so I found myself really realizing that there were a lot more people that need access to a marketing executive and the strategy and the perspective that needed someone full time in that role. And so, and this is not a fraction. I've never been a fractional, if you will. This has been strategic advisory. But what's been interesting, Mark, about it is the word incremental. And I love that you highlighted that, is that um, growing up in the restaurant business and the hospitality business, one of the ways you optimize your income is you sell everything you've got in the kitchen. And if you got extra asparagus, and let's say people aren't buying enough grilled asparagus, then you mince it up and you put it in soup and you sell it as soup, but you're not going to throw the asparagus away because throwing away is profits. That is a mentality I've used in all businesses. Before you create a new product, before you go out and buy another engine or manufacturing, whatever, maybe look in the cupboard and look at what you have to sell that people aren't buying and try to sell that more to the people who already know you. And guess what happens? You multiply your sales and profits. That's called incremental.
Wow. Wow. You make me think as you're talking about that, I'm thinking, okay, what do I got in my kitchen cupboard?
Heck, yeah.
That
No, I
we
mean,
can use.
seriously.
So, yeah.
We
Yeah.
think we got to create something new when the reality is the only reason you're not selling more of what you have already in the cupboard is because not enough people know about it. You haven't taught the right people, or what I really believe is you haven't connected with the people that bought it in the past to see if they want to buy some more before they ask for it.
Why do you think that is?
We are enchanted by new. I mean, especially if you're entrepreneurial mindset, there's this thing that I have to like find the next deal, and I have to meet the next person, and I have to find the next all-star employee, or I've got to come up with a new idea, and we get bored. I mean, we've done a lot of work on like product and revenue, but we also believe that your brand is only as powerful as the story you tell. And one of the number one reasons why brands lose traction is the internal people get tired of the messaging before the customer does. And so, oh my gosh, let's create a new campaign. Let's create a new campaign. Let's change the storyline versus just saying the same thing over and over again to create repetition, to create ownership, and to create basically a position in your customer's mind that no one else can do this the way we do it because we do it this way.
Wow. That's so true. I mean, I often think about this from like just within this podcast, right?
Yeah.
I started this podcast as a value add to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get the conversation about intentional leadership into the earbuds and truck speakers of leaders across agribusiness. That's been the whole mission, right?
Yep.
The whole time. It started from some work actually with Ben with brand builders, but it came out of, as I was working on my personal brand and what do you want to be known for? And it's like, well, I want to help people be more intentional. I want to help leaders lead more intentionally. Okay, well, what happens? Well, all the times in life, and I've said this so many times, right, on the show and in other places, all the times in life that I've found myself the most resentful is always because of the times in life I was the least intentional. Okay.
Now, dude, wow, we could go miles on that one, right?
So here's the thing. I'm just proving what you said as I'm looking at your face, and you can't see his face if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever. Yeah. But that just hit Ed like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, actually. And if you're one of the few who's listened to all 200 episodes of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast, like you've heard that a few dozen times.
Yeah.
But most haven't. And most people are actually here for the first time today, and they're hearing that for the first time. But to me, it's like, I'm ready for the next tagline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Or I don't know if that tag is that resonating? Is that driving revenue? I don't have enough feedback sometimes or I don't hear feedback in the way that I feel like I need it, right. To keep going. Yep. What I'm hearing from you is like, keep going.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, now, cause it's kind of funny because I'm all about optimization. I mean, my framework, winning others over and over, the wonder of woo, the stewardship, the thing I said about doing all you can, but with what you have today, that is optimization. However, what I realized is that creating something new, and I'm a creator, creating something new is not optimization. It is restarting something or resetting something. And so just make sure that I use a lot of food analogies, but you know what? The if you look at the classic brands, and whether it be a single proprietary one location or um, hundreds of thousands of locations, is the chef is going to get tired of making the same fettuccine alfredo the same way every day because there's no creativity. It's about execution and precision. Okay. The customer doesn't want your fettuccine alfredo to taste different every day. They want it to taste like they had it at their grandmother's birthday party 3 weeks ago, or they had on their first date 25 years ago. Okay. And so maybe you change the music in the restaurant, or maybe you add an appetizer. But if you've got hero items, hero messages, hero experiences, don't don't get distracted. I think that's because I will tell you, to me, um, intentionality is the antidote to distraction, and is what you said in a different way. You know,
Yeah.
when you've had the most resentment, is when you weren't intentional. Well, so another way is probably was when you were distracted.
Yeah, of course. You get distracted doing all kinds of other things, and then
Yeah.
you lack the intentionality. And sometimes the intentionality was actually in the boring stuff, right? It
Oh,
was just making
yeah,
sales calls every day.
dude, I get bored easily. I mean, I am self admitted.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's what is the if I'm just I'm thinking about the general agribusiness out there. They're
Mhm.
selling products to farmers, or they're creating products that get used in the
Right,
agricultural supply chain. There's lots of brands. There's lots of really recognizable brands actually
for sure.
that you would recognize if we really got into it. But if I'm sitting in one of these companies and I'm thinking, okay, we want to generate incremental revenue. We've got an issue in the ag industry right now where margins are suppressed from the farm gate all the way through the value chain to the top of it right now.
And the customers end up paying more for the same thing they used to pay less for a year ago.
We've got all kinds of high input costs. We've got low commodity prices, and so it's kind of, and there's a lot of other things that have been going on that we don't need to get
Yeah.
into all the details of, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's been going on for a while. Everybody's sick of it. We're waiting,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that we'll cycle out of it. It
Yep.
always does. We've been here
Yep.
before, but we got to make numbers this year. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm looking for some incremental opportunities, where would you, if you were to partner up with an organization today, where are some things what are some stones that we could start looking under? Or, and I know we've talked around, I think we have the framework for it already, but give me something practical.
Dude, yeah. Okay. So you think of marketing, you think of sales and all that kind of stuff as going after the next, going after the new, going after chasing the deal. Oh, we got to enter this new market, or we got to do this. Okay. And I am all about that. However, if your margins are tighter than they've been, what you have to do is you have to figure out a way to spend less money somewhere else if you're not going to be able to get on the top, right? You have to create efficiency, and you have to create velocity with your enterprise's engine if you can't get it from increasing prices. Agreed? I mean, that's basic economics.
Yep.
Okay, so how do you do that from a marketing standpoint? How you do that is you spend less on acquisition cost, and you spend more on generating incremental revenue in two ways: either increasing the number of transactions or increasing the average transaction size. And the
Right.
fastest way
Gotcha.
to do that is with someone who already knows you. And so if you were to take any business and imagine I use a lot of restaurant analogies, but I got to tell you, if you can run a restaurant well, I think you can run a business well. Okay. Look at your business as a menu board, and what categories would you put your product assortment on a menu board if you had to hang it up on a wall? So what's your entree, what's your appetizer, what's your sides, and what's your desserts?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then take a list of your 100 customers, and of those 100 customers, or let's just say 10, of 10 customers who know you and loyal, first and foremost, of those four categories, could those 10 customers buy from all four? And what is your penetration of those categories? You're only selling 2 of 4 or 1 of 4. So could I sell another category, another item to the existing customers? Okay. That's one thing. Second is, could they buy it more frequently than they are? Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
could they use it up faster so they need more of it? And a lot of times there's customers that we think, oh my gosh, they've stopped buying. They don't like me. No, they've forgotten about you because what? They've got distracted.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
intentionality comes in is looking at your existing community of people who love you and could they buy more of or more things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
until you start really going out and kind of working that and trying to harvest that, the other option is, oh, let's spend $3,000 on Google search. Let's try to get a stranger to go from
Mm-hmm.
no clue to purchase because that's obviously going to be really fast.
Right.
And the beauty about it is that um, we're half of it is knowing who you want to. I get in trouble for saying this, but stalk. Like, who is it that you want to
Right.
intentionally nurture the relationship
Right.
with? However, that's one half of the equation. That's the strategy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's the game plan.
Yeah.
Where the second place where leaders fail is they're not intentional in the direction they give their team,
Mm-hmm.
which is here's the words you use and here's the behaviors you choose.
Mm.
Meaning, for
Wow.
us to serve our customers well, we have to say this and we have to do this. And so if you don't have the program operationalized, right, then you're
Mm-hmm.
going after and you're nurturing these relationships, but it's like random conversations, or it's like, oh my gosh, hey, how are you doing? I just want to see how you're doing. And then 20 minutes later, you go, hey, by the way, do you need more paper clips? Versus, oh my gosh, dude, I was just thinking about you. I mean, it was crazy, but I realized you haven't bought paper clips in the last 4 months. Surely you've used paper clips in the last 4 months. Is everything okay? Do you not love us anymore? Oh, you forgot? Let me send you some paper clips today.
Right.
Because and again, I don't want to. I hope I'm not babbling here. Is this
No.
okay? So
No,
here's the
what I want to, if you could, I want to go back because
Mhm.
I wrote down the quote. I've heard you say it before,
Yep,
and then I want you to give us some examples of things that where we experience this in day to day
okay,
consumerism. The words you use and the behaviors you choose.
yes,
I want to
yes,
make sure that people get that because when I heard that from you, like it really, when I heard that when we met several months ago in person in Nashville,
yep,
and you're saying like, so what are the words you use? And it's like when I'm training my team, these are the words that we use,
yep.
and we don't use other words. And there's
That's
a
right.
reason we use it, and that really stuck with me because what I find in a lot of my clients when we go into work with them, like there's a lot of different words, and everybody's got their own.
Yes.
And then we
So
wonder why we don't have consistent results.
that's right. So okay. So on the word side, um, one of the basic principles in my mind of strategic communication, strategic communication for a brand, the less money you have to spend on publishing the message, the tighter the message has to be, and the more repetition you have to have with it. Okay. Because it takes our brain multiple times to remember the same thing. Okay. So again, we talked about like changing the message. Well, the other thing is that yeah, you can have your marketing team design a really cool display ad and you can have a great flyer, but it all comes down to the conversation more times than not, unless you're totally e-business, the conversation that occurs between me and the person who is the economic buyer, the person who's going to say, hello, here's a purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if what I'm saying is not in alignment and reinforcing and resonating with everything else, then I'm confusing my customer. A confused customer does not buy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and if you take it too far, a confused customer will actually run away because no one wants to be confused. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what are the words you use? So I'm going to give you an example that has not really to do with selling, but customer experience. Now, Chick-fil-A is not perfect, okay? And Chick-fil-A is just one example. I had 17 years with Chick-fil-A from 1982 to nearly 2000. We went from
Mm-hmm.
100. Well, when I started as an employee, it was like, I think I was at the 46th restaurant that was built. Um, when I was at corporate, we went from 175 to nearly 1,000 locations, right to the first $1 billion.
Wow.
Okay. And now it is a scalable brand that whatever you want to think about is fine. They're closed on Sunday and they generate more revenue per square footage and per restaurant than any restaurant in the nation. And they do it in 6 days and they delight their customers better than almost anyone. And the way they do it is everything is specific. So if you know Chick-fil-A, you know, my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. Well, that is cute and that's great and that's definitive. Well, where my pleasure came from was back in the 90s, we were trying to figure out how to elevate the customer experience. So we actually studied the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Hort
Yep.
Schulte, founder of Ritz-Carlton, before the even Marriott acquisition. And their mantra was ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And one of the ways they did is said, instead of responding, when someone asks you to do something as a guest, you would say, my pleasure. Okay. That's an offensive strategy, and that's cute and nice and relational. However, my pleasure at Chick-fil-A is also a defensive strategy because anyone between the age of 15 or 30 has a high propensity when asked to do something, they say, no problem. Well, that sure makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Would you like, can I have some extra pickles on my sandwich? No problem. Versus my pleasure. So when we say the words your people use, sometimes it is giving them the specific words to use. Sometimes it's telling them the words you never use. I was talking to a dentist today and I used this example. And I honestly, I guess it's true. It makes sense to me. But I was like, you have a hygienist who's been a year and a half out of school. And if it's like most medical trainings, you learn the proficiency, but you don't necessarily learn the patient care.
Mm-hmm.
So could you imagine if the first time I sit down with a new hygienist and I don't smoke, but like 3 minutes into it, she said, how long have you been a smoker?
Mm.
You think that would make me feel warm and fuzzy?
No, not at all.
But but it's a lot. It could be a logical question because maybe she's thinking your teeth are yellow. I want to help you get them white, or your breasts stink. I want to help that. It was not that she's judgmental, but she doesn't. We don't contextualize what we say in the context of how someone's going to receive it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so as a brand, okay, you talk about culture, right?
Yep.
I believe your culture is your brand, and your brand is your culture. It's not
Mm-hmm.
your logo. It's brand promise. Those are guiding principles.
Of course.
But your culture is your brand, and your brand is your culture. What is culture? Culture is the collection of the behaviors and the words of your people.
Mm.
You can say you have hot fries on a billboard, but if the employee does not ensure that you cooked hot fries and I get them on my tray at the counter, your culture ain't hot fries. Your culture is cold fries, no matter how much you spend on billboards. So I believe we talk about distraction, that where we get more frustrated when our employees don't do what we want them to say or do until we realize, hey, dang, maybe we should actually tell them what we want them to say or do. And I think that is the biggest contributor in corporate America, companies big or small, is that we are not clear with our employees as far as what we expect.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get
Yeah.
frustrated and then we react. And what happens is you live in a land of distraction and confusion versus intentionality and excellence.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's it's so much that goes into this, and we don't have time to go in there. But you actually have to. Part of being deliberate, to use your word,
Yep.
on what it means to be intentional, is actually
Yep.
taking time to figure that out, right? And like, what is it that we do say, and what are some of those things that we ought not to say that are creating confusion or potentially turning people away or turning people off? And I think we recently went through a process with a consultant to help curate our client experience. So once you
Mhm.
become a customer of the Momentum Company, what
Mhm.
happens on day 0, 1,
Yep.
2, 3 is now scripted.
Yep.
Okay, it's
Yep.
like we just turn it on and it goes.
So,
and it's
so let me ask you, does that make it less authentic because it's scripted?
no. I mean, like we just know, like the email that goes, and the first email says this, right? And the welcome phone call right, happens, and that happens, and Christine makes that phone call and says, "Welcome to Momentum 360," or whatever the
Yep.
case may be,
Yeah.
or "Welcome to the executive coach," and it's different for every person who's in there. But but it's very, like, every step along the way is very intentional. It's done two things. Okay, I, as the biz dev guy, I'm actually not the one making those calls, and I'm not the one sending those emails. But I know that there's a process that's going to be consistent for my customer, and I have confidence in selling that, right? Because my operations team has got my back. So
Yep.
they're going to back up what I sell. I just can't oversell or undersell the thing that they're
Yep.
putting out there, right? Number two, though, like, it made it lighter for our team to have that done, because now the team is clear. Here's what happens first. Here's what happens second. Here's what happens next after that, right? And we can go to the client and say, okay, this is day 0 to 3 is going to be like this, and then day 3 to 30 is going to be like this, and days 30 to 90 are going to be this, right? And
Yep.
they know, like, it's like when I make my Amazon order, and then I get a little email that says it's a confirmation for my Amazon order, and then I get my little updates along the way. That puts my nervous system at ease. I know my new book is going to be here. Now I know it's 10 stops away. And
Yep.
next thing you know, I got a picture of it sitting on my front porch.
Clarity.
Right? Those are, like, things that make me want to buy more, that want to be
Mhm.
more a part of it. For our team, what that did for that process is, it just, like we can take a step back and take a deep breath. And one of the things that we learned the hard way as we went through that process, though, is that we were actually fire hosing our customer. Okay. So the moment you buy, you're getting all kinds of stuff. It's like, look at all the amazing list of shit that you bought. Congratulations. You get all this amazing stuff. And they send the check, but now they don't know what to do with it. Right. And and that was a problem for us, right? Because we can't get incremental revenue if they already feel like they got a whole great big steaming pile of, right, already there laying in front of them. Why would I add more stuff to it?
Well, Mark, and what you described is exactly what we're talking about here. And we talked about, how do you create incremental sales and profits? Is you create capacity for your team to do things that add greater value by them spending less time on things that either distract or just diminish value.
Yep.
And again, a 17-year-old on cash register in a restaurant. Now naturally, I mean, you can probably figure out, I don't mind talking. I didn't need a script. I was like, hey, you want chicken sandwich? Whatever, right? But for someone who doesn't, the lack of efficiency, confidence, clarity, the lack of comfort in trying to do the job I'm paid to do, when there's that confusion, it incrementally is eating away at impact, at investment in time. So when you can get things as clear and streamlined as possible, what you're doing is you're creating margin. You're creating margin from a profitability standpoint. You're creating margin for a better impact. And, I alluded to it earlier, but one of our foundational models is, everyone talks about ROI, return on investment. How can I get the most pennies out of the dollar? And that's important. That's stewardship. I believe what we're called to greater is ROI, which is return on impact. And that is by me doing the right thing today, by me doing all I can with what I have today, can I actually impact positively the humans around me in a more profound way than if I spent the last 5 hours trying to figure out which email do we send to this customer, or did we send this customer the email, or what do we say? Mm-hmm. And that's where, back to earlier question about I literally had a client say, why are my commission salespeople ignoring X hundreds of our existing customers? And I personally believe, I don't even call it naive. I believe it's genuine. I believe most people want to do the right thing at the right time. And either they are so overwhelmed or so over demanded that there's not clarity on what the right thing to do is, or more importantly, what the things aren't to do. So as leaders, if we can help our people know the 2 or 3 things they must say and do in their role to be successful, and frankly, the one or two things they should never say or do, then you increase the probability of multiplying your sales and profit faster without spending another dollar on marketing.
Yeah, beautiful. I 100% agree. Ever since we met, I was like, all right, what is my pleasure? Yeah. Right. Like, what's the thing? And then, like, and really for us, the more important part of that was the other one, which is, what should we be not saying? That's for us. That's been, we have a lot of great things to say, right?
Yep.
We have 200 episodes on this podcast. Christine's got 300 on her
Yep.
show. She's got a book. We've got oodles and oodles of courses and all the things, right? But it's like nobody needs to know that, right?
Yeah.
What we just found is like actually telling people that hurt the business.
Yep.
What we needed to say is like, okay, so the goal, right? Or what, based on what the customer's goal is, the goal. Okay, you want your sales team more aligned. You want your sales team taking more action. You want your operations people communicating better. Okay, that's the thing. Cool. This is actually what you need. You just need that. You don't need there's other things available, but you just need that one thing. We don't even talk about the other things. We talk about the other thing, and then they naturally start to discover other things as they grow with that one product. I heard somebody talk about this earlier this year, because our focus is on recurring revenue in our business, and not everybody will be that way, but we are. And I don't know why I never learned this in business school, but what about net recurring revenue? It's like, oh, what's that? That sounds interesting, right? Well, that's like, so like, let's say I sell the customer for their membership is 50,000, right? The net recurring is everything above that, but they actually do 70,000.
Yep.
Now that's a KPI that we want to take part in, because we know that we're going to have that 50,000 per year coming from that customer.
Yep.
Right. Or 5. I don't care. Just pick
whatever the number is. Yeah.
Pick 50 because it was an easy number. But now, like, if we're just by suggesting, like, hey, have you thought about trying this, or should maybe we want to add that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we want to put a nitrogen stabilizer,
Yep,
with a nitrogen, and maybe we want to put some seed treatment with that. So now it's like, I know they're going to put nitrogen on their field. I know they're going to fertilize, right? But then there's these 2 other things that can support that. And are we doing a good job of positioning that as we grow the customer?
Okay, so you've got that $50,000 customer who actually ends up to being about an annual value about 75,000, and because of the relationship and the trust you establish and the impact you're making on them, they are now with you 2 years and 3 years, and then somebody being brilliant goes, you know what? We need to optimize our profits for our customers. So even though we've never done it, if our customers use American Express to pay our bill, then you know what? We're going to start doing a 3% surcharge, because that just makes mathematical sense. Because I mean, why should I not pass it on? So what happens to the customer 3.5 years into it, where all of a sudden 3% in an email that went out through Salesforce to everyone say, I'm sorry to inform you, we appreciate your business, but however, with all the pressures of business, we just want to let you know that as of January 1st, you'll be charged 3%. Yeah. See ya.
This is my favorite one these days, which is the haircut. So I had this gal that has been cutting my hair, right? And my wife has had this experience at the salon where it's like, I go there, right? And my wife has spent a lot more than I am every time she goes in. She goes in less frequency. I go with less frequency. I go once a month, but once a month, I'm good for $40 and a 25% tip.
Yep.
Okay. With the gal that cuts my hair, right? That's what she runs, and she does a good job. And I take my son there, and he likes her. It's just like, I could go somewhere cheaper, but that's what I do. Okay. We go in there now. Okay. I was making a podcast one day and had things back to back. My mind was elsewhere, completely blew my appointment. And I get a text message like, hey, are you coming or no? I'm like, I'm like half hour away. I can't get there. Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to charge you, 50% for the time. And I've been going 2 years. Right. Now I understand.
24 times.
Respect people's time, right? Don't be a jerk. Like you got to defend, like you got to have some boundaries in place, but let's do the math on 40 a month plus a 25% tip, right? Minimum.
Yep.
Sometimes if I'm feeling generous, I might do 50 because I want to support a small growing business.
Exactly.
So it's probably actually been more than that sometimes.
Yep.
And so, now you're talking, okay, so what's good? Let's do the math. Do you really want that $20 today? Because that's the kind of stuff that pisses a guy like me off, that says, I've been supporting this business, tipping more than I have to, being consistent, show up every month. I book before I leave.
Yep.
Is that worth $20?
It is when, and so our matrix, however you want to do it this way, is transaction, impact. And if your people don't understand both sides of the equation, then they're going to do stupid stuff like that. Now, that was probably the business owner that maybe she owned the shop. You know what I mean? What happened, I guarantee you, is she just got pissed because this one customer all of a sudden had no showed 3 times. And
Right.
she was like,
Yep.
I'm going to fix this. Again, Chick-fil-A story. It was like when Chick-fil-A, when all the restaurants started offering free refills, Chick-fil-A is known for fresh squeezed lemonade. It is their signature item. I squoze many a case of lemons in my life. Okay.
Yep.
The operators had a choice whether to charge for a lemonade refill or soda. I come to get a drink with my sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, this thing that you've created, this like passion and hero worship and all that kind of stuff, you're now going to penalize me for a free refill that you're giving everyone else because it costs you a little more, even though I pay more every time I buy. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's like in keynotes I call it the charging for nugget sauce. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
is it really that important to charge 25 cents for nuggets? I mean, or a cup of water. Anyway, I'm sorry. You
No,
get you two
we
never a
we
deal.
could we could go on, and
Do
I think we've
stupid
all had
stuff
that.
because someone runs some math, but they don't think about the impact on the business.
Yeah.
And so because they get distracted because they're either fearful in pain or they lost vision and they're trying to solve a mathematical equation and they forget about the customer and the context. It
Yeah.
happens all the time. I've done it myself.
You betcha. Well, man, I love it in your bio. It says clarity and alignment. Clarity plus alignment equals sales
Mhm.
velocity.
Yep.
And I think if we could boil it down to that equation, like, are you clear? What do you
Yep.
say? What do you don't say? Right? Are
Yep.
people aligned? Do we have the right people on the team? Do we have the right processes that back up a lot of this stuff? Like those two things combined equal sales velocity, and we need more of it.
Well, and dude, I mean, I trust you'll agree that formula is universal. You just take out the word sales.
Yeah.
One of the greatest lessons in marriage, marital bliss, we learned at a very
Yes.
early age was the amount of time wasted talking about, do you want to go see this movie or where do you want to go to dinner?
Yeah.
And we have a 1 through 10 rule that if we now I'm prone for this. Hey, you want pizza? You want steak? Whatever. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we try to get to, hey, I want steak. I don't want steak. I want tacos. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you? It's a freaking 2 to me. Well, tacos are 8. Let's go get tacos. I mean, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Versus, oh my gosh, and so the when the enterprise has clarity on what the objective is and what
Mm-hmm.
the trade-offs are and aligned with the decision moving forward, it creates velocity, which to me is stewardship, which is doing all you can with what you have. And frankly, I mean, stewardship is great, but one of the reasons why I believe stewardship is so powerful is that when there's clarity and alignment, the byproduct is not just velocity. The byproduct is peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
cannot have joy without peace of mind. Try it. It won't happen. And I
Yeah.
believe ultimately we are called to live a joyous life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's things that are external factors that we can't control, but there's things that are internal factors that we can. And so when we choose to be clear and we choose to be aligned and we choose to be intentional, it creates velocity and creates stewardship. But more importantly, it creates peace of mind. And peace of mind creates joy. And joy is, like, to me, the best return on impact ever.
I love it. I love what you guys are about. The when after we first had our first conversation, you sent us out a little package. I've got uh, how Ed Howie grow a brand notes that I'm like literally taking notes on for the podcast today.
I
But
love it.
you sent this magnet, right?
Yeah.
You sent this magnet, and on the magnet is just the word joy, and I'm like, I stuck it on our toaster, and I have to look at that every single morning. And I'm not saying I'm not batting 1,000 at pulling
Ah,
out the joy
I'm
and
not
peace
either.
of mind around today, but I see
I mean,
that,
I
and
can
it
see you. You
it's on
burned the
the
toast. There's not going to be immediate joy, right?
yeah, exactly. But it's a good. I see it there as it's a good reminder. And so, Ed, you practice what you preach, and you do a good job of putting it out there. So we appreciate the work that you're doing. And if we're gonna send people to get in touch, man, where do we want to push them to?
Yeah, the easiest is edhowie.com, EDHOWIE, edhowie.com. It's got all information on our framework, The Wonder of Woo, our belief that lifelong customers are your fastest path to cash, and that if we'd all just stop chasing strangers and love the customers who love us already, it's amazing what would happen as far as multiplying our sales and profit. But as importantly, our clarity, our alignment, our intentionality, our peace of mind, and our joy.
Beautiful, man. Thank you for being on. It's been great.
Dude, I'm glad you cut a timer because we could talk forever. But no, I mean, yeah, I'll just say one thing. We were talking a little bit before the deal, and you said you've done 200 episodes, right, of this podcast.
Yeah,
I will guarantee
200 came out on Monday. This last
Are you
Monday.
serious? Okay, so I might be 2 or 3. Who knows? But here's the deal, and this is something I hope some of your listeners and your community have affirmed. But people worry about the number of like, oh, how many listeners and that kind of thing. Just think of the lives you and your team have touched because of the effort and intentionality you have just had these conversations with people. You'll never know the impact. But if you chosen not to do it, the impact would have been only one-to-one, direct to direct. So having done podcasts and that kind of stuff, I know the work, but it's also a blessing to be a guest because it really causes you to kind of do the BS test on, okay, is this really what I believe? Is what I feel, what I learned? And the fact we can multiply it to other people, then hopefully some people who have listened to this lives will be better because they invested time with us today. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's the true hope. That's the true hope. And it's in through these podcasts, we get scale, I mean, it's like, I just look at the the data that we do have, and I know that we don't have all of it because you don't get to see everything, but I know that we have something in the ballpark. We'd have to run 125 8-hour events, 1-day events every single month to hit the number of hours that this thing gets listened to.
That is remarkable.
Every month,
That's impact, brother.
Like I don't have 125 days a month to be in the classroom. Nobody does. So it certainly does. And Ed, you have definitely brought it today. You guys need to check out the Wonder of Woo podcast as well. You guys go check that out. Head over to edhowie.com and get into it. Check it out, guys.
Awesome. Appreciate you, man.